Hi friends, today we're going over the Unit 1 Day 4 notes, specifically targeting complex numbers. So we're going to be rationalizing I in the denominator. And the reason we rationalize I in denominators is because I is the square root of -1. So that means you have a radical in the denominator. We don't want radicals in the denominator because it's not rationalized. And so we want to rationalize everything we do, not only in math, but also our life. Make sure that we're being rational people. So right now it says 4 divided by I. So let's think about, what do I need to multiply by in the denominator to essentially have a real number? Well, if I think about it, if I take I times I, I'm going to end up with I squared. And I squared is a real number. So if I multiply by what I call the convenient form of 1, so I over I, again, I over I is just 1, because anything divided by itself is 1, then I end up with 4I over I squared. Remember, I squared is -1, so I end up with -4i. Now, it's a little bit different when you have a real and an imaginary part, because you need to multiply by the conjugate. Remember, the conjugate is the opposite sign, and we talked about that when we did this top part here, when we multiplied by the opposite sign. And so we actually, the problem is the I part, so the opposite sign is the opposite sign of the imaginary. So this is going to be 5 plus I. Again, if I multiply the denominator by that, I need to multiply the numerator by the same thing. So this is also 5 plus I. So let's go ahead and do the easy part first, the denominator. If I do 5 times 5, I'm going to end up with 25. And then my middle terms are going to cancel. -5i and 5i, they're going to cancel. And I end up with -I squared. I squared is going to be negative times -1, so it's a positive. You actually end up with just 25 in this case. And then for my numerator, this is a little bit more laborious, showing some work. So I'm going to do 3 and then 2i, and then I'm multiplying it by, let's see, 5, and then I here. So that's going to end up 3 times 5 is 15, 3 times I is 3i, 2i times 5 is 10i, and then 2i times I is 2i squared, which is, let's see, that would be -2. So now this is going to end up being 15 minus 2, which is 13, and then 10i plus 3i, which is also 13i. So this gives me 13i plus 3i. So my final answer is, in the numerator, 13i plus 3i, all divided by 25. This next one here, 16. A lot of students just want to cancel. Please don't. Whew. I do need to multiply 3 plus 4i by both the numerator and the denominator. And again, this is just the convenient form of 1, and I can multiply anything by 1 without changing the value of the number. So the denominator, 3 times 3, so that's going to give me 9. So my denominator is going to be 9. And then my middle terms again cancel. We talked about that earlier. -4i times 4i is going to be -16i squared, or a positive 16. So I end up with plus 16. So my denominator in this case is going to be 25 for this part. Now let's go ahead and simplify the numerator. So I'm going to have 3, and then 4i, and then 3, and then 4i. 3 times 3 is 9, 12i, 12i here, and then 16i squared, which is -16. 9 minus 16 is going to be an... Oh, I'm so sorry. I just realized that you could not see what I was writing. I apologize. There we go. So what we have here, 9 minus 16. 9 minus 16 is a -7. And then if I combine those other together, I get 24i. This is going to be -7, excuse me. -7 plus 24i. And then the last one, number 17, I times 2 plus I. Let me see if I can zoom in a little. Somewhat. Okay, so now, so we have I over 2 plus I. So if I multiply by the conjugate, I'm going to end up with multiplying by 2 minus I over 2 minus I. So then distributing the, denominator first, being consistent. I end up with 4. And then negative I squared, which is really positive I, so plus 1. So that gives me 4 plus 1, so then my denominator here is 5. I just realized, made an error up here, because 25 I did not acknowledge. It's 25 plus I squared, negative I squared, so that's going to be plus 1. So that's actually 26. So 13 plus 13I divided by 26. These reduce, so you end up with 1 plus I over 2. Whew, I apologize. I missed that. Good thing I caught it. Continuing on with 17. All right, whew. All right, distributing the I, so that's going to be, let's see, 2I, and then minus I squared. I squared is negative 1, so that's going to be 2I plus 1. So then I'm going to have, for this one, 1 plus 2I over 5. Thank you for joining me on this. Next video, we'll go over simplifying complex numbers and then using substitution. Have a great day.